Hey everyone, it's Baritha Yoga and I'm here, and this is my review for Snow White, the new film directed by Mark Webb, and starring Rachel Zegler and also Gal Gadot in the lead roles. Now, there's been a lot of talk about Snow White before the film even came out. Now it's finally released, and I gotta say, unfortunately for me, it did not work as much as I wanted it to. I avoided watching any of the teasers or trailers for this respective film because I wanted to go into this film with an open mind, and I did not want to know anything about this movie beforehand because, again, a lot of people were talking about it, and I didn't want to have any preconceived notions as to how I would feel about the movie before going in. But after watching this film, unfortunately, I have to give it a 5.5 out of 10. There's a lot of things that did not work for me, but there are some positives. Now, first and foremost, when it comes to the positives about this film, I would say the biggest positive overall was Rachel Zegler's singing voice. I think she is spectacular. I think she has an excellent voice. And whenever there's a song in this movie, when she starts singing, it's breathtaking. It's really, really good. And I hope in the future she gets to do, an album of sorts or, just do musical based films because again, when she sings, she is excellent. Unfortunately, I would say her acting performance outside of the singing portions is a little bit hampered due to the fact that the writing in this movie is kind of weak and the direction's kind of weak. So I would say her performance overall was okay. The singing portions were excellent, but the dramatic portions and, the everything outside of the singing was just kind of okay for her. And I think, again, it's not entirely her fault. I think it's more to do with the writing and the direction. And the other big positive for me was the CGI animals. I thought that the animals were very adorable. They're very cute. They were, the highlights of the movie outside of Rachel Zegler's singing, in my personal opinion. Anytime the animals were interacting with Rachel Zegler, I think it was very nice and very lovely. It really did remind me of the original Snow White. And I kind of wish that the animals had a bigger part in the story, but obviously they don't have a bigger part in the original story as well. But yeah, it just made it more magical when the animals were on screen. That's pretty much the only positives that I have about this movie. Now, obviously, Snow White has had a very long and historied production before this movie came out. And with the reshoots and the reconceptualization of some of the sequences in this film, it is very evident that this movie felt like two different movies in one. And you could tell, like, there's moments in this movie that even though this is a big budget film, I felt like it didn't look like a big budget movie. I don't know, maybe it was just the color grading or just the way that things were presented. It just felt very green screenish. It didn't feel like everything was blending in as much as I wanted it to. Yeah, I feel like Mark Webb's a good director. He's directed one of my favorite music videos of all time. I love 500 Days of Summer. I personally really like the original, the Andrew Garfield film that he directed, The Amazing Spider-Man. I didn't like the sequel, but yeah, and Gifted is a pretty decent film too. I think that Mark Webb is very talented. I think he's not a match towards the story here, and I think it's very evident that he's trying his best to present this movie in a certain way, but it just doesn't really gel with whatever is shown on screen. Now I come to Gal Gadot. Now Gal Gadot is trying her best to be very campy here, very hammy, over the top, cartoonish villain in a sense. And I feel like even though I get what she was trying to do, I don't think she was able to execute it as much as she wanted to. Again, I think she was trying her best here. It just didn't gel well with the film's vibe and everything. It just felt like everyone was taking things seriously or kind of like really going in a certain path, and she was kind of going a left direction and very kind of wink to the camera type of acting. I just didn't buy the way that she performed her character, in my personal opinion. I think that Gal Gadot is not, a bad performer. I think she's done decent in other films, but I think here it doesn't gel well with the rest of the film. Now, when it comes to the rest of the movie, I felt like the romantic angle with Rachel Zegler's character and her on-screen romance partner, they didn't really have a lot of chemistry, in my personal opinion. I think that, they tried, but it just didn't really show well on screen. The Seven Dwarves are kind of still a little bit of uncanny valley for me. The CGI was kind of weird, in my personal opinion, at times. again, the animals were really well done in terms of CGI, but the dwarves, certain moments they're okay. Just at other moments, it feels like you're watching a video game in a sense. But yeah, unfortunately, I think that Snow White is not a great movie. I think it's just been hampered by a lot of different things outside of its own control as well. But yeah, it's a 5.5 out of 10 for me. Now, there's been a question as to what should Disney do next, because obviously they've had a rough go at things in recent times. And I feel like if Disney gives carte blanche to very talented writers, very talented directors, and allow them to do any sort of story, I think that's where they should go next. I feel like the live action idea works for certain films. Like, you know, when The Jungle Book came out, The Jungle Book was a very popular film, but I wouldn't say it was on the level of, let's say, like a Lion King or a Little Mermaid or something like that. I feel like that's the reason why Jungle Book really worked, because it was a nice advancement of that story visually. I feel like certain stories don't really need a revamp this quickly. Like Snow White has not been done for quite a while, so I'll give them a pass for Snow White. But when it comes to like a Mufasa or a Lion King that came out recently, Lion King in 94 is a classic film. People still watch it till this day as if it's a new film and they really love it. I feel like if you're gonna revamp a story like that, you need to wait at least 40 or 50 years, in my personal opinion. But yeah, I just, in my personal opinion, I think that Disney needs to go to the drawing board, just give people carte blanche, allow them to do whatever they want, even if it's not going to get them $1 billion in the box office. At least allow them to explore their ideas and just try to make some new IP for them to kind of sell. Because again, I feel like if you really delve into IPs that are just tired and being done to death, a lot of people are just going to get tired of the brand. And I feel like Disney has a lot in store for them in the future. It's just they need to recalibrate what they want to think about in terms of their future projects. Maybe not do live action films. Maybe just do a live action movie every 3 or 4 years. Make it more special. Don't make it like a yearly thing. That's just what I think. But yeah, unfortunately, Snow White didn't work for them, or worked for me personally, but hopefully it works for you. Again, it's a 5.5 out of 10 for me. And once you see Snow White, let me know in the comments below your thoughts on the film.